Hey people, I think this is part 6. And so this is the first time that the writings of Satan are known to come up. The book of Job, 4,000 years old. And in Job 1:6 is the first time it comes up. And the word is Hasatan. Hassatan. Has. This is actually just an E and an SS. They say this line down here means the A. The Hasatan. And so this word has, saying it come from the Arabic, is in the French meaning embarrassment, an unpleasant socio-economic situation. And it sounds more like a German name, Hass. In German it's where your word hate come from. In English, hate. Hades.
Hass.
Hatred or hate. In Pennsylvania German, hatred or hate, spite. And some people actually name their kids this. It's an undername. It's a German nickname for a bitter and vicious man from Middle High German has or hatred. So like Satan never had a chance. He was embarrassed from coming from an unpleasant socio-economic situation. And everybody was hating on him. And they were hissing. ESS. All's really there. ESS. Hiss and then THM. Final N reads the M to hiss them. So this N came also. They're getting this from these two letters here. This VI with a dot, is a VIJ. The I is the IY or J. So it's two of them with a dot in it. And you're looking at a VIJ is what they're getting from this. And that's an arrive. I arrive, I come. And that's coming from a Latin. But I don't believe that's where this is coming from. I believe this is a WIJ from a Dutch. It's where we get our word we from. WE. We, meaning the one speaking. The WIJ, the first person, plural person, refers to the speakers, the one talking here. And this is actually coming from this VUAGS. Final M is a S. And we voyages, we came. And this tat has you read this backwards, the NTHS first, and then the hisses them. And so we voyages, and this hisses them. And then B means in, TU, into, and the final M is an S, voyages, and cause, to fold from, is what the cause is, what happened. We caused them, and we voyages, and this hisses them into cause. So who's actually coming is the day. And this reads twice, this mark, the same thing. How they, and then wage, WIEJ, the wage. And how they wage, and then the juice, JIUS, or they, they as in there, and two I's, IJUS, their juice. And how they wage their juice. The sun gives us its juice is the day, but it's talking about they, and it's talking about each day, the planets. Each day has juice. Each day has its own day. Each planet has its own day. We have a sun day and a moon day and a Saturn day and a Thor's day. And so how they wage their juice. And you see this came here is read different. BAV here. Where down here it was BVA. It's different. And it's not the same word. This means wive. To match up, to marry up, the wive. To the wive, and then AV of, wive of, WIVAV. Just give that first V a W, and it's the wive of. Give the final U of V, where they give it a U. That's what it says. It's the wife of. And then this mark up top here tells you come back and read this part again. And so it's a VAU, the vow, the wife of vow. And then this mark says read this one more time. So it's a vav, meaning connected. The wife of vow connector, the wife of vow to. And how they wage their juice, the wife of vow to. And then BN, and then read it back the other way, BINJ, bing, ben bing, the time bing, the mark of, the bing on every hour, you get a bing, the mark of time, the wife, the bing, and then hail, HALE, is. Hail means where it comes from, to let it, and then the dot and the X is two X's. The X is a TS. So it's to let it, and then ST, sit, SS, sits, to let it sits in. That where it comes from is let it sits in. And then all, and then backwards and forwards after this. All the, and this mark here, they call it an upside down epsilon. And it has a meaning. It's not there for no reason. And I'm not sure about this one yet, but it possibly just adds an epsilon between here, as in who, HU, and then the way. All who way to have, HVE, who voyages in this, hisses them into cause. And so how they wage their juice, who vowing of to, is talking about the planets. You know, they all have a vow. You know, the planet Sun is vowed to Leo, and the moon is Cancer. And then Mercury has Gemini and Virgo, and Venus has Libra and Taurus, and Aries with Mars and Scorpio. You know, everybody has their vow. And you see in Jupiter that it's backwards over here. And so I'm not real sure. They might both be vows, or one might be vows on one side and leases on the other. But I believe we're talking about the vow of Saturn being Satan here. The Saturn, the S, the sh. Saturn is the S. The S. These are both Saturn. How they wage, they juice. The wife of vow to Ben Bing. The hails is let it sits in. All who weigh have. And so Venus is upside down. It makes me think that it only reads on the direction backwards, because sometimes it'll be turned right side up. And so I'm only reading it here, HU, who, and then way, WEY, the way, and then EVE, or HVE, to have. You know, EVE is Eve, to have and to hold. All who weigh have. Who voyages in this, hisses them into cause. And so you would think, you know, the hisses would come on Monday when you got to go back to work. So maybe in this time, you know, Friday was the day off. You know, Freya, Venus. And then this word, you know, and yammer, who yammer. You see underneath it is, they call this a backward zeta. And they say they don't know what any of these marks mean, any of these blue marks. They think it has to do with phrasing when you're reciting. And there's a bunch of them. This is that upside down epsilon. And I haven't figured out what this one is yet. Looks like a spring. I haven't run into it many times. And I'm pretty sure I got this one down. And these other marks. Not quite sure about this one yet. It's possibly an old G. Got the mu down. And I believe I got these down. And it shows right here. You'll see, I told you it means an A. It's on the end. You can see it in the middle of this word here. of this Pharaoh. You see how they put an A on each side of this R, Pharaoh? That's what it is, the P-A-R-A-E. It's to drop an A in there, but to not give it the meaning of the A, just the pronunciation, because all these letters have a meaning, and this way you're not adding the meaning of power or knowledge in there, you're just giving the sound of it. And all these marks are just to double read, and these are directional marks, and this is that draga they call it. And then sometimes the upsilon is right side up. And you know they had this mu in here up top in the line before, and mu meaning little, so it's how they wage little. But you know, that's all they can say about this, is it resembles a backwards Z to zeta, and that gives enough of a clue. You know, zeta is the 6th letter, but they give it the number 7 because it was the 7th, number 7 in all the other languages, and that's where your 7 comes from. And so they don't know if this is pronounced as a DZ or a ZD, and that's because they don't understand the markings that give reading directions. But you see, they have many arguments for the ZD and several for the DZ too. And you see here as the DZ, you know, this is the same thing. They'll give the sound of the Djed pillar, Djed, which was this Samic, to hold up the class hand around. You know, the right hand rule in electric, the secret. And I believe that has something to do with a Z-axis. You know, you have an X and a Y-axis. You know, if you have a high-speed grinder or a drill in your hand and it's turning on the X-axis, if you try to move the Y-axis, the forces are going to cause the Z-axis to turn. And so I was looking at some of this, and this is their interpretation here, and it's not quite right. If you go to this old paper, they say is around 100 BC was what this mark means right here. It's around, and that's why when I see this mark on top of a letter, I move the letter around. If I see it here on top of this A, it means I move this letter L around and I read it twice. You know, on top of this U, I move this O around and I read it twice. But I went to check out this page. The translator won't translate it. They translate the top, and once in a while they translate a word, but they didn't understand this language that was just 100 years BC. But you can see, you know, the Amar in here, you know, the same as, and he said, the Amar, the word. You know, this AMR, you know, this is the base of grammar. You know, the base word for said is just the AMR. But it'll read many different ways, different reading directions with the punctuation. But this first time it comes up in Genesis 3:1, you know, the line's telling you to read it backwards here. And regardless, you know, it starts with A, it reads backwards. And the line here is telling you it's reading RMR, rammer, to give rammer. And that's where your word grammar comes from. It's not said. Has more to do with the spelling. So this zeta comes up often in this word, but it's always underneath the first vav. And here it's under the yod. And so I believe it's adding the ZD or the DZ between the two I's here. Being it's a backwards Z, I think I'm going to give it a DZ, as in why does DZA. You know, why as in how or who does, or how does Marie. You see the line under here telling me that this reads separate syllable. And so, you know, Marie is the ocean, Marie the mariner. And so how does the ocean will on this hisses them. And then from a many, A-M, and then N-Y, the many, and then aim, A-I-M, N is pronounced as an M when final. From a many, aim it in, The right in knowledge is a tab. To aim it in how on, how on, and then come back and read this again. To make yom, it's an M when it's final. So it wasn't final in the first time around, now it's final. And so yom, the word they give day, meaning a period of light. And to tab, to tab, how on a period of light hisses them. It was a period of light hisses them is vampires, scared of the light. And then to the way, to have, and then an extra E, how, H-U-I is how, E-U-I, how, yammer, how said, Mrs., M-S-S, Mrs., and then backwards, math, M-T-H, M-T-H-U-S-E, Mrs. Matthews, with bars, to metallic, M-E-T-E-L, and then L-K, to metallic B. The bars, metallic B. And so Mrs. Matthews sounds like the math to use, to add it up. And said Miss Matthews, with bars, to metallic B. And so Miss Matthews with bars is also an officer, with bars. You get your bars when you become a captain. You get your metallic bars. Miss Matthews with bars, to metallic B. And you see how the line under Satan, they change up all the time, and it's never the same word. These lines are directional, and I'm not even sure about this yet. It's liable to add a G sound in there. You see the first time it had this mark 10, this ended here, it starts here. Will on this hisses them. And you don't see that mark down here. It tells me it reads different. But this line here is telling me this E is going to read with this M. And so it's going to be me down here. And so why yammer you and then two E's? The heel, H-E-L, the heel on this hisseth me, hissing on my heels. Why yammer you heel on this hisseth me? Submittal, and then bot all. The submittal of buttle. A submittal of buttle is submit a rebuttal is a refutation or contradiction. But a bottle is a boundary, when you're bottled in. A rebuttal, is making a contrary argument, present contrary evidence. And so submittal was the first evidence submitted. And a rebuttal is something contrary to it. So first they lay out the buttle, they lay out the grounds, the area. And if they want to change it, you submit a rebuttal. The submittal of bottle, a handy of did in, of why wacky key naya, come who two bars, shya C, shya S-H-Y-A-Y-S-E, and then back here A, shya C, and then the Z in here, the D, the T-D-Z-S, tides, shya sea tides, and Y Surrey, and it's trying to rhyme here. Surrey means will be, shya sea tides, Y will be, Rami, Rami, and then L, Ramiel, the first knowledge learned, or the Rami is the branch of the branch of the law, L-A-W, the law of Sir Moreau. And so they'll say Sir Moreau means to be mere, but that looks like a language change to me. Satan is the accuser, and this looks more like, the law of the support first, or Sir, Senior, and MRO from first C. And it sounds more like an eyewitness from first C. You've seen it yourself, it wasn't passed down. And so it's talking about how planet affects the tides here. And it makes me think, that's another thing that makes me think this is a G here. And it's to Gaia, G-I, Gaia. To the earth, Mare oceans. You know, and we, and then two E's up there, L. You know, the L is the old Sumerian gods, the L. We L on this has them. The Semital buttle, the handy IDI, the handy of did in, of who, you know, of why, and then this epsilon, you know, going with the A here, W-A, the wacky, you know, the wacky key. And so it's rhyming in the poetry, you know, and the key is to keep account, the records keeper. And so it's talking about Mrs. Matthews seems to be the accuser. And she's handy. She's handy of did in of why the wacky key. You know, the wacky key. She's wacky and keeps account of not come who to bars, you know, of Shia sea, you know, the tides run up on the bars, the Shia sea tides, who Sarah, who will be the branch of the laws of Sir Moreau, you know, the Sir, the senior Moreau from Eyewitness, from the first eye, from first C. So if you Google Miss Matthews, you're going to come up with some softcore schoolgirl porn. And I believe that is associated with it some. I believe this is Miss Matthews over here. And you know, all these planets, you can see them out there with the naked eye. But there's these other positions that you have to use math to figure out where these positions are. The Rahu, the Ketu, in the center of the galaxy, in the outside of the galaxy. I believe that's what Miss Matthews represents, is the expanse, you know, is the nothingness. And that sits, I think it sits out there in Sagittarius. But it's going to talk a little bit more on this next line. They left this huge clue right here. It does for nothing. But this is actually the word that they call Satan. But my program's loaded up. It's real slow, so I'm going to have to cut this off here.
Don't forget, hooty hoot, tooty hoot. I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.